Do, 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 do. I believe we are live, and I believe I can fly. Friday night hang time with Frankie. We're hanging out here on a Friday night talking about the Jets, talking about the NFL, and we're seeing who wants to hang out this evening. Who wants to come say hello? If anybody, maybe nobody will show up. You never know when you turn on the microphone. You always got to be careful. You never know what could happen when you turn on the microphone. You could get, you never know what you could get. That's the point. Mark Chetty's here. Yeah, we got a Mark Chetty. All right, Mark. Good evening. Good evening. Phil the Jet Adams is here. Philip is all the way from England, so it is not 1800 hours. Where he is, it's more like 23, 30 hours or something like that. Um, so hello to Phil Adams. This doc, it takes a while for this control panel to load up and tell me how many people are here. Let me know if you can hear the microphone okay, if you can see me okay, all of that stuff. Okay, now we got some numbers. All right. So let me know if you can hear me. I turned down the volume on the mic a little bit. Maybe we could get some better quality on the mic. So Shetty says, yep. Yep. We can hear you, Frankie. We can hear you, buddy. Hey. Well, in case you missed it, Joey Aguilar's injunction for another year of eligibility has been denied. So now we have a situation where it looks like Joey Aguilar is coming into the NFL, whereas Trinidad Chambliss, he got approved, at least so far. So, I guess, and Lane Kiffin is saying it depends what lawyer you get. Pretty strange days in college football right now. Some of these injunctions are getting denied, some are getting approved. We don't know what's going on. Some people are going back to school, some people are coming into the NFL. It's strange days. All right, we got 100%. All right, all right. I think if that's the case, then I probably had the volume too high on the mic before. Because if it's coming in loud and clear now, then it was probably too loud before. We'll have to see about that. So that's going on in college. Aguilar is not a big prospect. He's probably going to the Canadian Football League, if I had to guess. So it doesn't really affect the draft much. But it's just interesting to see some of these cases that are being brought in the court system outside of the NCAA jurisdiction. And the NCAA is losing some, winning some. It's not consistent. And that's the interesting thing about it. Superfan is here. What's up? Sup? 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 The Jet Beat Riders, of course, as I put out on X, they're getting their rest in. They're not putting out too many tweets. They're not doing too many articles. They're not doing too much. Why? Because they got to rest up. Rest up for what, Frankie? Well, the combine starts next week, and all of the reporters will be flying in to Indianapolis to begin their week-long drinking binge. And they will be drinking a lot of booze and talking to a lot of people, trying to get little bits of information here and there, and we'll start seeing some rumors coming out because all of these people will start drinking their heads off in the evenings, and especially, well, we don't need to get into that, but there will be journalists of all kinds, let's say, in these bars in Indianapolis, and lots of information will be flying around starting next week. So some of these people They got to rest up for that. There's a big week of drinking they got coming up. So that begins on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and basically the whole week. And after that, we should really get some idea of who the hell is going to quarterback this damn team. Now, I will tell you that I did listen to a couple of podcasts today, and one with Mr. Kirk Cousins, one with Mr. Derek Carr, and couldn't really get any information about what their future intentions are. So we now have here the 2026 NFL Scouting Combine General Manager Head Coach Availability Schedule. So this will be interesting. Tuesday, February 24th. So Tuesday, let's see. Glenn and Muji will be at podium number 8. So in case you're there, you were wondering which podium they're at, it'll be El Ocho. It'll be Aaron Glenn at 1 o'clock. So 1 o'clock and then 1:15 will be Mooj. So they'll go kind of together. So we'll get some news out of that. The guys will be down there asking them their stupid questions. What are you going to do about quarterback? Now, I did listen to a podcast with Zach the Hack Rosenblatt today. And apparently they have a new person on their podcast. He's a Badlands guy, so it just keeps getting worse and worse for them. But Rosenblatt said they will ask Glenn about 3-4-4-3 defense, which is interesting. So at least they know that much. I don't think they're going to get any kind of straight answer, but you got to ask the question. That's the whole point of journalism. So podium 8, 1 o'clock and 1:15 will get some words out of Glenn and Muji. So that's Tuesday. That'll be news. So we'll probably do a Tuesday News Day that day, I guess. And other than that, you're not going to hear much. It'll be interesting to see what kind of tone Glenn takes. Obviously, the tone that he adopted this year, antagonistic, not good. So maybe he's gotten some media training, hopefully so, because you can't be antagonistic with the media and lose. That does not work. That's a no good formula. So we'll see if he has a more conciliatory tone or if he says anything newsworthy. Probably not. But that's the next opportunity for news. Tuesday, 1 p.m. And our beat reporters are not putting that out. That comes from one of the Nationals. Ryan Fowler puts this out. Nobody else is putting this out. That's pretty strange. You'd think this is a very bad time for news. NFL team fans are sort of starving for news. So you would think this kind of schedule, they'd want to put it out to let people know when their people are going to be speaking, but apparently not. So there's that. Yeah, Phil says, hope AG is taking some media training. Yeah, just he needs to take the advice of somebody like a Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll never said anything, but wasn't antagonistic with the media, generally speaking, was amiable, cliched, and that's all you really need to do, because ultimately, in the end, whether you're friendly like Robert Saleh or antagonistic like Bill Belichick or amiable and saying nothing like Brian Daboll, no matter what you choose, if you're losing, the fans will not be on your side. Consequently, if you're winning, it doesn't matter which one of those you choose, the fans will be on your side. The fans, in general, only care about winning. They don't care about you as a person. You could be the most wonderful human being ever, and if you're losing, they think you're a bum. So that's just the way it is in this business. So yeah, I think, to be antagonistic, it just makes your life worse. Like if you're going to choose one of those three approaches and you're going to be antagonistic and lose, that's going to make it worse for you because now the media is going to be the least charitable to you that they can be because you're being antagonistic toward them. You're making their job harder. So if you're losing, now if you're winning, look at Bill Belichick all those years. You can be antagonistic if you're winning. That's fine. But not if you're losing. If you're losing, it seems to me antagonistic is the worst choice out of those ones that you could choose because now you're making enemies of the press. And we all know as fans, well, especially if you're an FSPN supporter, that the enemy of the fans is the press in a lot of ways. But at the same time, you can't actively make them more of an enemy than they just normally are because now you're just making them extremely vicious. Like Country Club Connor now has gone to extremely vicious territory, which he would never do with a Robert Saleh or even an Adam Gase, because Robert Saleh he still talks to this day. Robert Saleh is a politician. That's part of what he does. That's his theory of the media. Thinks he can charm everybody. Adam Gase was a guy who was just sort of don't give anybody information, but try not to be antagonistic either. And so even Adam Gase got some kind words from Country Club Connor this last couple of weeks as he got hired to go out to Los Angeles to be with the Chargers. So, it's just a matter of like pick your poison, but antagonistic and losing is just that's never going to win. That's probably the worst choice you could make. And maybe he thought he was going to win and the winning was going to allow him to be antagonistic and he could just do that. And he enjoys being antagonistic with the media. And then we started out 0-7 and that went right out the window. So, the way it goes. Chili blue. Phil Adams. Be humble when you win, and even more humble when you lose. Yeah. I mean, it's really about amiability. Like, how amiable are you? And you can be amiable. I mean, the best way to do it is just play it down the middle. Be amiable and say nothing and use all the cliches, right? Like, that's how Derek Jeter played it. That's how Joe Torre played it back in the day. And that's probably the best you could do. Now, Joe Torre and Derek Jeter were winning, so that made it easier for them. But no matter what you do, if you lose, the fans are not on your side, so you're in a bad position anyway. But you just make it worse if you're antagonistic, because now you're making the press super against you. It's like, do you want them to be super against you or just against you? So, well, those are bad options, but I would just take against me rather than super against me. Where, Country Club Connor has gone to the point where he's trying to tell people that Aaron Glenn was a bad defensive coordinator. It's like, no, that's a lie. Now you're lying, right? Now you're being a douchebag. But that's what Country Club Connor does. We have the whole history of him doing that with Denzel Mims and Mekhi Becton and now Aaron Glenn. And then we see how he treats Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur and Adam Gase. And you see that there's a difference. So, and they're still going to be antagonistic. They're still going to be against you if you lose, but it's just, do you want them to be super, super, against you? And that's really the only choice that you have. These guys really want to cover a winning team. You know what I mean? They really do. They want to get those big, big advanced checks to write a book about a winning franchise. Nobody wants to read a book about a losing franchise. So they all want to do what Gary Gnu-Myers has done and Ian O'Connor and these type of people and get lots of money and get a big $1 million advance and write these fancy books and live in a high tower with moats and French maids and butlers and stuff like that. And they can't do that if you lose. So you're affecting their life. They would like lots more money than what they make. Only way they can really get it, some of these people start a YouTube channel for this reason to get a little extra money, but the only way they can realistically get it is to write books. And the only way that's going to happen is if the Jets, start consistently winning. So if you don't, they're going to be pissed. You're affecting their career. They could be getting all kinds of money. Going on book tours, feeling special. Oh my God, I have a reading at the Strand bookstore. And look at me, I get to go on tour in all these cities and go into bookstores and look at me. I'm a famous writer. Look at me, I get all this money. La-di-da. That's what they want to do. But they can't do that if the Jets keep losing. So they're going to be angry at you no matter what. It's just a matter of degree that they're angry at you. So I would choose the middle path if I were Aaron Glenn. And you got to stop with this. The other thing that really annoys me about Glenn, and I'm a Glenn supporter and rooting for him, but one of the things that does annoy me about him and all coaches who do this, there's a number of coaches who do it, is pretending like this is 1994 and we don't have the tape. We don't have the all 22 footage. We all do. And sure, there's a lot of fans that don't look at that and don't care about it. But there is a large and growing portion of the fan base that's looking at the all 22. If they're not looking at it themselves, they're watching Joe Blewett break it down, or one of those dudes, or Baldy. And so you can't treat this like, everything, and the fans and the reporters know nothing. Because even if the reporters don't know anything, they can find somebody who does and have them break down the tape and explain it to them. There's plenty of ex-players out there that they have, and coaches that they have relationships with, and they can say, "Hey, can you break down this film for me? Aaron Glenn said this. Can you tell me what the tape says from the all 22?" And they'll walk them through it. And then they'll say per source, or maybe they'll name the guy. But so you can't pretend like this is the old days and the coaches know way more than everybody else. Not really. I mean, they do to a certain extent, but really good film breaker downers know just about as much. Now, they don't know how they're coaching the players. They don't know certain things. They don't know 100%, but they know a lot more than we used to in the old days. I'll tell you that much. So I wish Aaron Glenn would just kind of tighten that up and stop with that. But we'll see. And that's probably, we'll see how amiable he is. I'll also be curious to know if he's just happy looking. Does he look beat down? Did this offseason really get him down? Or how's he looking? Does he feel chipper? Does he feel nice and happy? I would like to see him chipper and happy rather than beat down. But, so we'll see how he is. We'll see. Cichetti, Vegas over under 7.5. Is that enough to call off the Hounds for AG? If we go over, if we get 8 wins, I don't know how Vegas can have a number, Cichetti. We don't even have a quarterback. How does Vegas have a number when a team doesn't have a quarterback? And that number seems high for us right now. Without a quarterback, we're at 7.5, Cichetti? How's that possible? Who do they think's quarterbacking us? Brady Cook? Bailey Zappi? That number seems very high for right now when there's no quarterback. How is that possible, Cichetti? But if we win 8 games, Glenn's fine. Glenn needs to win like 8, 9 games. That's been my contention. Which is why I think he wants a short, kind of like a steady Eddie quarterback, and the two closest things to that are Carr and Cousins. I think that's who he would like, but I don't know if he's going to get him. I have no idea, but that's the initial Vegas book. Well, that seems pretty high to me, Cichetti. I don't know how the hell they would give us 7.5 with no quarterback and no defense. How the hell? We have no quarterback, no defense. As of right now, Breece Hall's leaving. And so there goes one of our big playmakers. And 7.5? What? Doesn't make any sense. So I don't know who's putting that out. Maybe it's out there like that to get people to bet the under. I don't know. I don't know enough about betting or gambling. You'll notice this channel not sponsored by DraftKings or Prize Picks or GambleYourLifeAway.com. We're never going to be sponsored by those people. So We don't believe in gambling. Gambling is for degenerate morons. We would never encourage anybody to gamble. So, so I can't claim to be some sort of an expert on the gambling, but I will tell you that that number seems awfully high to me. We don't even have a quarterback. Usually, one thing I do know about gambling, usually these gambling numbers are really based on the quarterback. And the reason for that is because the general public just thinks about a team that, they don't think, just some random team. And they think, all right, who's the quarterback? Is he good or bad? Okay. And maybe they think about the coach or, they had a great defense last year or something. But that's about it. And they base their entire, basically, opinion about the team based on that. So seems pretty crazy to me when we have Bailey Zappi and Hendon Hooker and Brady Cook on the roster, and that's what we got. And they're giving us 7.5. I don't know. Seems kind of high to me, says Shaddy. Seems kind of high to me. But what do I know? But yeah, I mean, if that's what they're. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to make of that number. Why it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, of course, if we go over that number, if we had 8 wins, Glenn's going to be safe. Yeah. 8 and 9. Yeah. After winning 3 games, yes. That will show progress. Almost tripling your win total. Yeah. That's. So, doesn't seem to be any other breaking news. So, it's Friday. We don't really have any Jet news at all for this week, really. We're getting different reports about whether Aaron Rodgers is going to come back for the Steelers. Aditi Kinkabwala says no. Meanwhile, Mark Caboli says yes, he is. That affects us because that's really the only team that needs a quarterback that's any good. And even the Steelers are kind of, they're getting kind of old there. I don't know. But they do have some pieces and things, and Metcalf and a decent O line, and Hayward and Watt and Highsmith, etc. So they do have some stuff, and they did make the playoffs last year. So, for example, if Derek Carr wanted to come back and he wanted to say, "Well, I'm only going to go to a playoff team," well, there's only one that needs a quarterback. Unless you're going to count weird things happening like the Vikings trade J.J. McCarthy or something. It could get wild here. But, we'll have to see who's right about that. But other than that, it's not a lot going on. It's quiet before the storm. We got 16 people in here, according to my doc. So let me know if you 16 people have any questions, comments. I don't know what we're going to talk about. It's a Friday night hang. We could, I don't know. There's just not a lot going on. But if there's things you want to talk about, let me know. I will peruse the wires to see if there's any late breaking news. Kind of the Bears might be leaving Chicago. How about that? They could become the Indiana Bears. That'd be interesting. The Arizona Cardinals are breaking ground on a new facility. The Arizona Cardinals didn't even have a facility, and they won't for another 3 years. At least we got that. At least we got that. Doobie doo, be doo. Chili blue. No, Chili, sorry, bud. I do not offer an email. I would say ask your question right now. And, I may not want to explore complex thoughts. That sounds painful, buddy. Who wants to explore complex thoughts? Dooba-dooba-dooba-doo-wah-ha. I will say, though, that if you join the inner circle, those people are the real supporters of this channel. And I would say that's probably your best bet. Go ahead and join the inner circle and, pitch stuff there. Never know what's going to happen, but that's your best bet, I would say. This channel needs supporters, and so it's a good fit if you want to provide support, but that's up to you. We do have the Olympics going on, and in case you missed it, the American female hockey players won the gold medal in an exciting fashion yesterday. And one of our figure skaters, Elisa Liu, also won the gold medal in exciting fashion. So the Olympic ladies are doing very well over there, winning gold medals on behalf of the United States of America. So you got to be happy with that. The hockey one was really cool. Overtime, skates in there, little fakety fake, and boom, it's all over. See you later, Canada. Get out of here, Canada. So that was good. Phil the Jet Adams, DM first job to do, BH20 tagged or ABT? Well, I would try to get Breece Hall done. I would like to get Breece Hall a nice 3-year deal. Part of the problem with the tag is that you can't move the money around. It is what it is. It's only a 1-year deal. So I would try to get a 2 or 3-year deal with Hall that's a fair value. And I would because then that allows you to play around with the cap. And he's young. He's 24 years old only. A 3-year deal get you, to his prime. Then you could let him go if you want or sign him again. So I would work on Hall. Now, if Hall really doesn't want to be here, I don't know if I would tag him or not. It just depends. There are a lot of good running backs on the market. One thing we could do is run through these free agents to be. Now, we don't know if they're all going to make the market, but you got Kenneth Walker. You got Travis Etienne. Where's the NFL free agents? Here we go. NFL free agents, running back, UFA. Najee Harris is a free agent. Austin Eckler, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, Rico Dowdle, Nick Chubb, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, J.K. Dobbins, Kenneth Gainwell, good out of the backfield catching the ball. Raheem Mostert, a little old. Kareem Hunt, Kene Nwangu. See, like Kene Nwangu, we should just sign right away. Like that's a guy we should just sign right now for the minimum. He'll sign it. Rashad White, Brian Robinson. There's a lot of these guys. Michael Carter's a free agent. We could get Michael Carter back here if you want. Tyler Algier is a realistic guy. Isaiah Pacheco. There's a lot of guys here. And that's why I think with this market here, I think Breece Hall would be wise to sign with us if we offer him a fair deal. He should know his market value, but he should also know that there's a lot of alternatives for teams to sign people. That's not the entire list either. So, if he wants to get crazy with the numbers, SpotTrack has him at 10.3. 3 years, 33, we get it done. 3 years, 35, get it done. Something like that. 3 years, 36, give him 12. You got to pay a Jets tax. We understand. If we offer him something reasonable like that, then he should sign it. My opinion. He's got a lot of competition on the open market here. He's one of the best ones on here, but still, if he tries to go for crazy numbers, teams may say, okay, we understand you're really good, but we'd prefer Travis Etienne at 7. We'd prefer Rico Dowdle at 6.5. So there should be a happy medium. There should be a sweet spot, and hopefully Mooj gets it done. Now, it doesn't have to be in order, but then we should be trying to get AVT done. And I don't know what the hell AVT's market's going to be, to be honest with you. We don't have to do them in order. Like, we can do multiple things at the same time. I think it's pretty clear the Jets want both of those guys back. I don't know what the hell AVT's market's going to look like. Some people are projecting 17 million a year for 4 years for AVT. Seems like a lot for a guy who gets injured all the time, but other people are saying no, a 10, 12 million dollar prove it deal will work. Uh, it could be anything in between. We don't know. But yeah, we got to be making offers. Now, if that fails, then you could sign John Simpson or Wyatt Teller. Wyatt Teller just got released. There's a guy we could get fairly easily, you would think. He's 35. Wyatt Teller's only 31 years old, 2-year deal, $22 million gets you done. James Daniels, he was injured last year. So, for example, Johnny Simpson is according to this, uh, scheduled to make 6.3. So you offer Johnny Simpson 2 years, 16 million, he'll sign it. Elijah Vera Tucker, according to Spot Tracks, is 12.8. So you want to sign AVT 2 years, 25, 26? I would do it. I would do it. He's that talented. Maybe there's some escalators in there. Maybe there's some protection for the club. But if not, then you could go with, you could even go with a guy like Tevin Jenkins, who's played well at times. He would be an El Cheapo option. Brady Christensen, you could get for $7 million. So there's plenty of options on the market here. So if we strike out with those guys, and AVT might want to go back to the West Coast. All right. See you later. Daniel Falele's here, $10.5 million. That's the big giant guy from the Ravens. Only 26 years old. Huge dude. Was supposed to be a tackle. They moved him inside. He played well. Jamari Salyer from the Chargers. And that's an El Cheapo guy. There's different levels. Green Bay, Sean Ryan, you could pick up. Center guard type. 7-8 million, get you Sean Ryan. So we got options. And yes, we're going to have to overpay, but that's life in Jetland. So there's a number of folks. We don't have to do them in order. We could do more than one thing at a time, but I would try for AVT, and if I can't get AVT, if he just says no, I got to go back to California. I want to go back to Cali, whatever. Then I would just sign Johnny Simpson. Like, he can be had 2 years, 16 mil. 2 years, 15 million for Simpson, 15, 16, something like that. Gets it done with Simpson, no problem. Simpson wants to be here. We know this. He's a great teammate. He was here before. There's some value in the continuity of the line. So 2 years, 15, 60 million, Simpson signing it. He is. So that's the way I would look at it. AVT, I go 225, 226. 2 for 26. He signs it, great. If not, I go after Johnny Simpson. That's what I would do. And there shouldn't be any problem freaking signing Simpson. For those monies. Super says, thoughts on getting Malik Willis, Romeo Dobbs, and Tyler Linderbaum to make an exciting offense? I would also keep Hall. Well, Linderbaum, you can forget. Linderbaum's not coming here. Every team in the NFL wants to sign Linderbaum. He's not coming here. And Eric DeCosta is in the news today saying they're trying hard to sign Linderbaum. And whenever Eric DeCosta is in the news saying the Ravens are trying hard to sign X player, they wind up signing X player. So I don't think he's leaving. But even if he does, he's got plenty of options better than us. He could go to Harbaugh with the Giants. He could go to other Harbaugh with the Chargers. And they all have lots of money. And so you can forget Linderbaum. That's not happening. In my opinion, I'd be shocked. Every team wants Linderbaum. He's going to have so many shooters he can get to choose. Well, he could go back to Harbaugh. He could go to other Harbaugh. There's no real connection to our team, so forget Linderbaum. Malik Willis, we've discussed this a bunch of times. Super fan. We've done videos on it. It's getting a little boring at this point. But the pecking order for the Jets in terms of free agents, in my opinion, is as follows. Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, Malik Willis, Marcus Mariota. Those are the four, with Mariota being the fallback plan. Problem with Willis, he's only started 6 games in his whole life in the NFL, so you're taking a big chance. I do not think that Glenn and Muji want to risk their jobs in a guy with 6 games of playing experience, 6 game starts. Uh, However, maybe they don't like Mariota and they strike out on Carr and Cousins, and Willis is the best choice. All right, it's risky. It could turn out great. It could turn out bad. We don't know. Willis just doesn't have enough of a sample size to feel comfortable with what he can do. He looked really good in Green Bay. He looked really bad in Tennessee. Who knows? He's hitting the magical age of 27, as I have laid out many times, my famous age 27 theory. And then Romeo Dobbs, I said Romeo Dobbs is a priority free agent for us as far as I am concerned. I would make a big play for him, 16, 17, 18 million, maybe more. Lots of teams are going to be interested in Romeo Dobbs. So we're going to have to overpay. Spot Track has him at 12, I believe. Let's look it up. Where's wide receiver? Romy the homie. Where are you from? There's a lot of these guys on the market, though, so that's good for us. Where's Romy? Let me just sort this by market value. Pickens going to get 30. Juwan Jennings, 22. Pierce, 20. Wandale, 17. Romy the homie, they have at 12. See, so that's interesting to me. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys listed above him. So he's basically the ninth best on this list according to their market value, if Spot Track is to be believed. And that could play in our favor because if he's getting offers 10, 11, 12, 13, and we come in 17, 18, he might choose us. You feel me? And other people are going to be happy getting Juwan Jennings and Pierce and Robinson and Samuel and Tyreek. They have Tyreek getting 14 even off of his injury, which is surprising. Shaheed is ahead of him, and then Mike Evans. So all that's 8, let's say wide receiver needy teams are going to fill their slot with one of those guys, and then there's Romeo. And if we pay above market value, maybe he comes to us. We'll see. So Romeo Dobbs, regardless, for me, would be a priority free agent for the Jets. I would pursue him very heavily because he's 25 years old, going on 26. He's been not super productive, and that's what's keeping his value down. He's, I think his most yards he's ever had is like 750, but that's the reason you can get access to him at this price. They're only pricing him at 12 million. So if you come in with 15, 16, 17, 18, let's say something, he might actually take it. There's got to be a reason for him to want to come here. That's why guys like Pickens and Jennings and Alec Pierce are probably not coming here. They're much higher on the pecking order, and no matter what money you give, well, it gets into crazy money. But even if you give them their market value, which you probably don't want to blow them out of the water at these market prices, but then you come in at their market value, well, they're getting 5, 6, 10 of offers all the same. Why are they going to pick us? We don't even have a quarterback as of today. So yeah, Romy the homie, I would put priority free agent. They have Wandale Robinson here, surprisingly, at 17.6. Now, he did have a really nice year. I was hoping Wandale would come in a little lower because Wandale would be my number 2 after Romy the homie. But you could go for like a Jalen Speedy Naylor for $5 million. You could go for a Christian Kirk, $6-7 million. I like Nick Westbrook Akine for $3-4 million. I like him as a wide receiver 6. Tutu Atwell you could get for $3 million. So you can fill out the room a bit with some of these dudes. De'Ami Brown as a wide receiver 6, for $3 million. We'll probably have to get one of these lower guys here because the top end of the market, typically we don't have access to. Bring back Braxton Berrios for $1 million, why not? If he's no good, you cut him. I bring back Braxton, play special teams, great guy. For $1 million, I mean, it's nothing. Why not? Let him compete for it. Maybe he doesn't even make the roster. Noah Brown, I'd be interested in for $2 million, $3 million. Those aren't high-priced guys. But I would make a play for Romy. That would be my play. Would you target OG center? Well, it depends, Phil. As most questions, the answer is going to be it depends. Depends how we do in free agency. Can I sign AVT and lesser guy? Do we bring back Xavier Newman? You know, type of thing. If we bring him back, we really don't have a need. And we have so many other needs. So we'd like to, we talk about the priority free agents are going to be the quarterback, Romy the homie, in my opinion, and then Alex Anzalone. Those three, maybe a Meek Robertson, the slot corner on the Lions, right? Maybe those four are the priority free agents. But then there's going to be a lot of other free agents that we get that are just $1-2 million players that fill out the roster. If we bring back Xavier Newman, that's going to be it. And if we sign AVT or Simpson, say, then we're not going to need to wait a fourth-round pick. No, because if we're successful with all that, which I doubt we will, that's like the optimistic thing. We're probably not getting Romy the homie. Probably not. We're probably getting somebody like Tutu Atwell, and that's it. And that's a little disappointing, but then you got to use, so like let's say we strike out on these wide receivers, we get Tutu Atwell for $3 million. All right, that's a wide receiver 6. That's not a wide receiver 2 or 3 like Romy. So that means we got to use that 16th pick on a wide receiver. That means we have to draft more defensive players, say in the 4th round. So everything depends on what you're able to fill the roster with. Because if let's say we sign Romy the homie and Tutu Atwell, now the wide receiver room is done. All these great wide receivers in this draft, we're not getting any of them, which is kind of sad in one way. But the fact of the matter is then we can focus on defense, which we need as much talent as possible in the draft. And basically, we would love to do what we would love to do. Actually, the best thing would be we sign a quarterback, Carr or Cousins. We sign Romy the homie. We sign Alex Anzalone. We sign Amir Robertson, and we sign Hall and let's say Simpson. AVT wants to go back to Cali. All right. So we wind up with Simpson. All right. Well, then in that scenario, the first 4 picks are going to be defense, and hopefully we can sell the 33rd pick, the 33rd pick, to move back and pick up a 3rd rounder, and then have 5 picks in the first 3 rounds, and then all 5 of those are going to be on defense. All 5. Because we just have no talent on defense. We're barren. We need lots of stuff. And I'd like to get Nick Cross also, like for safety, we need safeties in the worst way. But what if and I heard people talking on a podcast, this new guy from Badlands and Rosenblather talking about Cam Curl and Quanny Brisker. Cam Curl's going to cost you $10 million. Quanny Brisker, another $10 million. These are 2 guys that are at the top of the market for safeties. We're not going to get those guys. We got to look at guys like Reed Blankenship and Nick Cross. That's the guy I picked, Nick Cross. Nick Cross is scheduled to make, $6 million. So we get him for 7 or 8. And he's 25 years old. And that's the kind of guy you can get. All right, but that's like a middle, that's like an okay safety. So then you need a backup. So maybe we get Ife Melifonwu for $4 million. And maybe he's a backup, maybe he starts, it depends. Or maybe you bring back a guy like Ashton Davis. You can get Ashton Davis for $2 million. If you get Ashton Davis, he's clearly a backup, but he's also your core 4 special teamer and your punt protector. And he's really good on special teams. So now, that brings extra value. And he's a backup safety. Is he great? No, but he does have a nose for the ball. And we have a problem getting interceptions last year. A little problem. We didn't have any, in case you forgot. Ashton got some when he was here. Very bad angles with the tackles and all. Very bad eyes, Ashton Davis. But he's very good on specials. And as a backup, all right, you live with it. And you can get him for $2-3 million. It's an El Cheapo deal. So you do it like that, and then you get one in the draft, and now you're good. Now you're good. I would even think if you don't like Ashton Davis, all right, how about Chuck Clark? He's available. Get him for $2 million. I like Chuck Clark as a backup special teams $2 million player. Yeah. Why not? Great guy. Great guy. Loves football. He's only, Chuck Clark nobody's going to be thinking about Chuck Clark. That's the type of guy that we need to be thinking about because nobody's going to be prioritizing Chuck Clark. You put a $2 million contract in front of him, he signs it in 2 seconds. He's only 31 years old. For a backup and a special teamer and a great locker room guy and loves football, great dude. Chuck Clark's a great dude. Great. $2 million gets it done. And you get special teams value. He can back up both safety spots. He could even play a little nickel in an emergency. You know, that's the type of guy we're going to have to think about. Is that exciting to get Chuck Clark back? No. But that's the type of guy that we have to think about. Does he have some value? Can he play specials? What kind of locker room dude is he? All this. Because with your backups, you can't expect too much, and they also can't cost too much. You run out of money. So that's the type of thing that we have to think about. Like a Nick Cross plus an Iffy Melifonwu would be nice. You know? Todd's here. He says, no safety in the first round. If we trade back, maybe in the third, if we get a third in the trade. Yeah, so that 33rd pick is going to be super valuable, right? Maybe. What we're hoping is that 33rd pick is super valuable to someone who wants to come up and take somebody, but we don't want to necessarily take anyone there. So then we move back in the second round and pick up a third rounder, or more likely like a fourth rounder. So then we get 2 fourth rounders. But maybe we could drive a hard bargain and get a third rounder also, not a fourth round. But yeah, that's what you want to do because the defense needs so much help. And you should be able to get a good second round safety. There's some good safeties in this draft. So then you get your young safety there. And then you get something else, obviously in the second round, maybe another defensive lineman, maybe another linebacker. And then you either have a third round pick, which you didn't have before, or another fourth round pick. And so that's another player to the roster. And we desperately need talent. I told you guys in the summer last year, this roster is not talented enough. We have the least talented roster in the division. We're going to come in last place unless the offensive line is excellent and Justin Fields goes like this, and he did not. And the offensive line was okay, but not elite. And Justin Fields was flame out, and therefore we were not able to elevate the talent level of the roster, and therefore we stunk. Pretty simple, Watson. Pretty simple. Sean Hicks. The best Jets content on the internet. I stopped watching everyone else once I stumbled upon old Frankie. Well, I appreciate that, Sean Hicks. You share a name with one of the great comedians of all time, Bill Hicks. Old Phil Adams knows about Bill Hicks. So if your name is Sean Hicks, if that's your real name, Sean, well, you got one of the great names of all time. I don't know if you're as funny as Bill Hicks. That would be probably not. There are very few people funnier than Bill Hicks. You got your Richard Pryor. You got your Dave Chappelle. Okay. You got your George Carlin, right? You got your Bill Cosby, right? In the early days, not the bad stuff. Early days stand-up. Go back and listen to Bill Cosby stand-up comedy. You want to laugh your ass off. Whew. But you got to put out of your mind the bad stuff that he did later in life. You got to throw that out. But if you just listen without prejudice, as somebody once said, you will just die laughing. It is unbelievably funny. Unbelievably funny. But yeah, I do think that we offer something different here, Sean. I do. This is not the same old stuff you get on other channels, so I would highly recommend subscribe to the channel, join the Inner Circle. I mean, if you think this stuff is good, Sean Hicks, what do you think the Inner Circle members are getting? You'd blow your mind for $2 a month. $2 a month, you get incredible exclusive items, information, Frankie jokes. You get Frankie takes on the media, Frankie insider info. When I get tips from my sauces, I give it to, who do you think I give it to when I got sauces? I give it to the Inner Circle. They get it first and foremost. They get everything first and foremost, generally. They're the ones supporting this channel financially. Yeah, and after all, you got to reward those people. They come around every month with their money and they pay it. Hey, look, guess what? They're getting the best of stuff. I appreciate all subscribers, of course, but the people who pay the bills, they get priority. Membership has its privileges. Todd, you got to stop talking about Carson Beck. Todd, we've talked about this 10 times. Stop talking about Carson Beck. Stop it. You've brought this up millions of times, at least 10. You have to stop. Stop talking about Carson Beck. End of conversation. He no good. Okay? That's the opinion. Stop it. Let's check the wires and see. Breece Hall is so the Athletic has a list of the top free agents. They have Breece Hall ranked number 2. So, Hall may think, hey, I can get 15, 14, I don't know what he thinks he can get. But, hey, look, if he doesn't want to be here, if he's out of our price range, we'll just get somebody else. Not a big deal. I would prefer Breece, but if he wants to get 14, 15, get out of here. Get somebody else to give you that. Give you fair market value, but other than that, no. But I will say, if for some reason we lose Breece Hall, he goes anywhere else, signs anywhere else, the constant drumbeat is going to be, oh, the Jets should have traded him. They lost him for nothing. Well, first of all, you don't know that's going to happen. And second of all, we do get a comp pick, but so just get ready for that. That'll be the media outcry. Oh my God, it's so stupid. This is GM malpractice, letting him walk for nothing. You could have traded him for a 3rd round pick or a 4th round pick, and now you got nothing. So just get ready for that one. Get ready for that one, but hopefully we just sign him and that'll take care of that. But we'll have to see. Yeah, Hicks, it was funny because Hicks actually got discovered, quote unquote, or made it big, quote unquote, in England before America. And this made him very depressed. It seemed like the British audience really appreciated his humor before his American counterparts ever did. And he was astounded by this. If you watch some of the documentaries about his life, it's kind of funny. But hey, he got there at least. Todd says, I don't think Hall's going to stay, but I wish he would. Yeah, I mean, it's going to depend on what offers he gets. I mean, if everybody's offering him 11 and we offer him 12, he'll take our deal. If we offer him 12 and he has a team that's offering him 14 or 15, he'll take that deal. He's just going to take the best deal. And if it's all the same, then he'll stay. Why move, right? Especially if we can get this quarterback situation done first. I would love to get the quarterback situation done before free agency opens. Because then, let's say it's Carr. That would be the best outcome in our situation right now. Let's say it's Derek Carr. Then you could go to people and say, listen, we got Derek Carr. He's solid. We got Frank Reich, right? Good play caller. We got Musgrave, good QB coach. We got the offensive staff here. It's good. We got a bunch of Stanford smarties. But mostly we got Carr and we got Reich. Okay, those are the 2 most important people on any team. The play caller and the quarterback. Then you could go to people like Breece Hall and say, Breece, you put up all these stats without a quarterback. How's it going to be with a quarterback? Right? You could go and say, listen, to any wide receiver, Romy the homie. Romy, you want to, we got a quarterback now with a good, with Frank Reich, a good play caller. In addition to being along with Garrett Wilson and A.D. Mitchell. That's a good situation, Romy, and plus the money. So if we could get the quarterback in place, it helps everything, even defensive players. You go to the defense and say, look, we understand we got to load up on talent there, but we have a functional offense. How does the offense help the defense, Frankie? Well, the longer the offense is on the field, the more the defense is sitting on their butts on the sidelines. Easier to keep the team from scoring if you're not on the field. You see? Chewing up the clock, putting up points, and not to mention if we're putting up points and getting ahead in games, which is very rare for the Jets. But if we're up by a couple of scores, then that makes the other team what? Predictable. If they become predictable, we pin our ears back, rush their asses. That's a lot more fun for the pass rush guys. And, hopefully get a bunch of turnovers and stuff like that. So it's all interrelated. If we could just get a fucking functional quarterback in here one way or another, well, recruitment becomes easier. Everything becomes easier. But I have no idea. We're not seeing any rumors. We're not seeing really anything. Nobody knows. People are still talking about fucking Kyler Murray. We should not be anywhere near Kyler Murray. Just like we should not be anywhere near Carson Beck. Get rid of these bums. Get them out of here. Get them out of here. All right. We apparently have 25 people in here, so let's see some more comments as we move along. It's already 7 o'clock coming up on. I'm keeping abreast of the wires, college, pros. There's just really nothing going on. I mean, Lane Kiffin is attending basketball games. That's what's going on. Air Force has mutually parted ways with head coach Joe Scott, the Air Force basketball coach. That's the news. Joey Aguilar, in case you missed it before, his injunction got denied and apparently will be going into the NFL draft. I don't really think he'll be drafted, but he'll be trying. Maybe a UDFA type. Meanwhile, Trinidad Chambliss got approved. So the NCAA will be appealing that. We'll have to see how that plays out. But that's relatively recent news. Here's the breakdown. There have been 57 eligibility lawsuits filed against the NCAA, which I think the NCAA has got to get this thing handled where people can't sue them anymore. But anyway, 31 have been denied, 12 have been granted, 7 in state courts. So 31 denied, 12 granted. That's a pretty big split in precedent. Some of them, and there's different circumstances to each, but eventually the NCAA has to get out of the business of being in court over these eligibility questions. So that's something that needs to happen in the coming years, and I think it will. But Aguilar denied. Looks like he'll be coming into the draft. Meanwhile, the guy from Duke, he got approved, and he's going to be playing for Duke. The guy replacing Darian Mensah at Duke University. Mensah is going to Miami. Oh, Todd. Yeah, Reich does, and guess who else does? Every offensive coordinator ever on planet Earth. There's no offensive coordinator that wants little tiny short guys who can't throw the ball. So, yeah. But if that helps you get Kyler Murray out of your mind, good, because he shouldn't be in your mind anyways. But if that's what sells it to you, that's what sells it to you, great. I don't know. I keep telling you guys you got to filter your news a lot better than you do, and you don't listen to old Frankie. Let's see. Yeah. Well, doesn't look like any news now. So today being Friday, if there's no big news dump today, then that means it's probably going to be quiet through the weekend. And then we just go into the combine, and we went over the schedule before. It's going to be Tuesday at about 1 o'clock. The Jets will be talking. Aaron Glenn, Darren Muji. So there'll be some news out of that. And then the rumor mills will all get started once they start drinking their heads off. So we'll have to see about that. Is there any truth to the hit job circulating on Carr and his disgruntled teammates? Well, he only had one disgruntled teammate. That was Michael Thomas, who really wasn't his teammate. Michael Thomas was criticizing him for a pass he threw, one pass, where Chris Olave took a hard hit, an illegal hit. It was a flag on the play. And he got a concussion. That's bad. But it was a high pass over the middle. That happens in every game. But Mike, the difference was that Michael Thomas, the former Saints wide receiver who had 1,000 injuries, was going off on Carr really strangely and oddly on social media. And Michael Thomas since deleted that account. So that's where that comes from. Uh, Disgruntled teammates. Michael Thomas was his teammate for like 5 seconds and then he got hurt or something like that. But Michael Thomas was a great receiver who obviously kept getting injured and his career was shortened by injuries, unfortunately. But that's where that stems from. So it did happen. It was weird. Everybody kind of looked at it strangely. And Michael Thomas had to delete his whole account eventually. So I think Michael Thomas was probably, you know, drinking and this guy with his high passes and, you know how it works. Maybe he was smoking the ganja. So that's where that came from. I watched the game where that play happened. It wasn't great, but it wasn't extremely unusual. It was a high pass over the middle, and a guy came in and hit a defenseless receiver. You see it happen almost every game. And unfortunately, Olave knocked Olave out of the game with a concussion. And so was it a great play? No, but it happens. It wasn't intentional or anything. And except for the defender who did it intentional. It was an illegal hit, but that's where it stems from. Michael Thomas decided to lose his mind on Twitter. Feel bad for people like Michael Thomas going through. I think he was probably super frustrated. Like, this is a man who could have had an incredible career, who was a great wide receiver, and he just got too many injuries. And every time it looked like he was going to come back, he would get injured again. Then he would get injured again. And then he would get injured one more time. And so I'm sure he was super frustrated with all these injuries he was having. And, so that's where that comes from. That's where that comes from, Mark. One guy who was barely his teammate. But man, I mean, I've watched a lot of Derek Carr games, and he's not elite, but I mean, he's exactly what you need. He's basically like your Jared Goff. Think about it. Uh, is Jared Goff elite? No. But, Aaron Glenn comes from the Lions where he watched Jared Goff be a steady Eddie influence on the offense. Once they had him, then they built everything else around him. And if they would have stayed healthy, they had elite players everywhere, pretty much, or, they had a stacked roster. And with an okay-ish quarterback, you can do a lot of damage with a stacked roster. As opposed to hoping a kid out of the college ranks those guys very rarely do it. It's like a very low hit rate for college quarterbacks becoming elite. I mean, even the Zach Wilson draft, only one quarterback really made it, Trevor Lawrence. And even he, not really elite, but he at least maintained his starting position all this time. And so that's risky. So why not get a guy some kind of way, trade, free agent, who can just be solid. He's a proven steady Eddie guy who you can lean on, and then build everything up around him, and that's the way you do it. Maybe, I don't know. That's the idea, and I think that's probably what Glenn has in mind. And the question really is, in my mind, why did Frank Reich come here? Do you really think that Frank Reich came here without knowing who the quarterback's going to be? Back channels, agents. I think he's got to know something. I could be wrong. I don't know. Not sourced. But I just have this nagging feeling like, why would Reich do all this? Frank Reich. Sure, there's money. Sure, there's the competitive itch and all this. But really, he's going to come to a team and have no idea who the quarterback is? What? That's the thing that gnaws at me. And then what about that strange report that came out from Zach the Hack Rosenblatt? Now, he reported it wrong, and FSPN was all over it. We told you he's got it wrong. He's a bad journalist. He's breaching journalistic ethics. All those things. We covered it nonstop. But the kernel of the story probably is right. Somebody from the Jets probably did call John Gruden. If not John Gruden, perhaps John Gruden's agent. Now, why is this important? Well, there's a couple of ties. John Gruden's agent is also the agent for Frank Reich. Now, what else is John Gruden tied to? One of his favorite quarterbacks of all time was Derek Carr. So there's all kinds of connections. Maybe they were trying to get through the agent Gruden to get Carr on the phone and kind of convince him, oh yeah, this Reich, if you go with Reich, he's going to be able to turn around that offense. Look, you got Garrett Wilson, you got Adonai Mitchell. Hopefully we get Breece Hall. They got a decent offensive line. Hey, if you go, Carr maybe would listen to Gruden. Hey, if you go with Frank Reich, he's going to be spectacular. You guys can really do something. Maybe that's what was going on. Does anybody ever follow up on these things? It's weird. Like Rosenblatt reports that. He reported it incorrectly. He reported it as us offering Gruden the OC job. But what if it wasn't that? What if it was something much deeper or different? You would think Zach Rosenblatt isn't a reporter. You'd think you would call around, look for information. Can I get some information? I mean, with 2 seconds of internet searches, I found out who the agents are. I found out the connections. It's not that hard. So maybe that's what was going on. What about that? FSBN always giving you the different angle. Cigetti, let's hope we get the quarterback ASAP. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, it's got to be Carr or Cousins, superfan. Who else would it be? Who else really fits what Aaron Glenn would envision as a steady Eddie and that Reich could really work with based on who he's worked with in the past? What type fits that? You'd think he'd want a veteran type who knows what they're doing. I mean, there's only a couple that we have access to. Like some people are throwing Jacoby Brissett out there because he worked with him in Indianapolis, but Brissett is under contract with the Cardinals. I don't think they're trading him. A lot of people are saying the Cardinals are going to start him. So they're going to trade their starting quarterback to us? No. So there's only a couple that make sense. It's Carr and Cousins. Who else makes sense? We've been through the list, superfan. I went through this. There's whole videos on this with me telling all the information. But there's really only two. Who else makes sense? It's Carr and Cousins. In that order. Those are the type of guys that Reich could get onto the right path. I mean, every time that Frank Reich has had a decent quarterback playing, he has a top 10 scoring offense. Would we like a top 10 scoring offense? Well, if you give Frank Reich, Derek Carr, Garrett Wilson, A.D. Mitchell, Breece Hall, we already have 80% of the line filled. We just need AVT or Simpson. We could have a top 10, and people don't understand how good A.D. Mitchell is. I mean, in a functional offense, with a guy like a Derek Carr, with Garrett Wilson on the other side, which he did not get to play with much last year, and he had no quarterbacking at all, and a functional run game, which we already do have, A.D. Mitchell can eat, especially as a deep threat. I mean, I watched Derek Carr play. He's throwing 70-yard bombs right on the hands. Rashid Shaheed, boom, touchdown. Chris Olave, boom, touchdown. 60-yard bomb, boom, boom, all over the place. Derek Carr's a gunslinger. Uh, we haven't had that. Um, and so even if you want to use Arian Smith in the Rashid Shaheed role, you could look at the roster and say Arian Smith is Rashid Shaheed. Not as good, but he could do the same things. Rashid Shaheed was running very simple routes, but he's very fast, and Carr could get him the freaking ball right on the hands. Boom, touchdown. Uh, and on top of that, A.D. Mitchell and Garrett Wilson, and don't forget Isaiah Williams and John Mechie, who are also nice. They're not great, but they're okay. And we could add to it. You add Romy the Homie. You add Wandale Robinson. You add somebody from the draft, Carnell Tate, Makai Lemon. Now you have an abundance of riches. And teams will have to respect the passing game because we have a respectable quarterback. And then they can't cheat on the running game. We already had a top 10 run game last year with no quarterback. How good could it be with a quarterback? When teams are not stacking stacking the box. Not only stacking the box, but also not caring about, being very aggressive, even if it's in a light box, in pressing the line of scrimmage. So, I don't know. If it's me, I can make a great case, whether it's Carr or Cousins. Cousins is represented by Vayner Sports, by the way. I don't know why Gary Vaynerchuk's not getting involved here. Should be convincing Kirk Cousins every single fucking day, this is the place for you, bud. Finish out your career. But I want to go to a winning situation. Well, the Jets could be a winning situation with a goddamn quarterback. We have some pieces. We have some things. So, I don't know. I don't know. But that's the only people that could be super. Who else could it be? It's not a mystery. We have a list of all the free agents. And there's only a few that make sense. No, Reich did not. Shichetti's a minister and Cousins in Carr apart. Yeah, so they're all very devout Christians. That's another aspect that I've spoken about a bunch. And think about this from Carr's perspective also. Carr is a devout Christian, so is Cousins, so is Frank Reich, so is Aaron Glenn. But think about this from Carr's perspective. We would give Carr's going to be 35 years old. We can give him a 4-year deal, $135 million, 100 guaranteed. Let's say we guarantee him $100 million for 3 years. The fourth year is not guaranteed, let's say. Well, he's turning down, and let's say he goes, but I want to go to a winning team. I'm not convinced this Frankie story isn't, I'm not buying it. Okay. You're turning down $100 million because who else is going to sign Carr? If Rodgers goes to the Steelers, there's no team better than us. There's only bad teams left. The Cardinals. Who else is even left? The Dolphins at this point have nobody on the roster. So wherever he's going to go other than the Steelers, as long as they sign Rodgers, there's no guarantee of winning there. So then he's just going to turn down $100 million, and he's supposed to be a devout Christian. And meanwhile, he could do so much philanthropy with that $100 million to make your head spin. You could fund ministries, you could fund food pantries, you can fund whatever you want. You could fund all this philanthropy with $100 million only just because you come back and play 3 years of football. Which is kind of fun thing to do. It's not exactly digging ditches out here. And you're going to say no? What kind of a Christian is that? I mean, there is a whole thing in the Bible about talents. I don't know if you know the story about talents. They call it talents. But it's basically taking an investment and making it grow. And that's what you're supposed to do. There's a story in the Bible about taking your amount of money, essentially money. I don't know why they use the word talents. But anyway, and what you're supposed to do is not put it in the ground and keep it safe and not gamble it away. What you're supposed to do is invest it and make it grow. That's what the point of the story is. Well, if you're supposed to be some biblical Christian soul person who lives their life by Christ, how are you not? I mean, God gave you all this talent to be a football player, and you're just going to say, nah, I don't want that 100 mil. Thank you. I'm going to do a podcast. What? How can you be a Christian? There's $100 million that you can get guaranteed. You can do wonderful philanthropy. You can change people's lives. You can fill food kitchens. You can fund ministries. You can do all the outreach that churches do. You can fund it all. You can be the biggest church funder in America. And you're going to say, nah, no way. Nope, not for me. I can't do it because Woody Johnson's an idiot, or I don't believe Frankie's story about how close they are to being good. Nope, no thank you. No way. I'm going to do a podcast. What? Excuse me? Not to mention, even if you want to keep doing your podcast, what would make the podcast bigger? Coming every week on your Tuesday, day off, and doing the podcast on a Tuesday, a lot of guys do this, and talking about the game that happened on Sunday. You grow the podcast. That's even more money. For God's sakes, man. And you can minister through the podcast. Talk about your love of Christ and wear your Jesus piece and all this. Convert more people. Right? So, isn't it the right thing to do? I think so. But that's just me. What do I know? What do I know? Super says, if we have a good offseason, we can improve dramatically. Yeah. 3-4 defense, well, it doesn't really matter except that you got to have the right players to play that defense. And what I would say is it's probably easier to go get players for a 3-4 in the modern day than a 4-3 because more teams play a 4-3. Remember, you're competing against all those 4-3 teams if you're also going to run a 4-3 for all the defensive line players who are all the same type, all the same type of people that you want in a one gap. Well, now you got to compete on the free agent market, in the draft, for those type of guys. If you run a 3-4, fewer teams run it. Now you have less competition for the type of two-gappers you need. So think about it that way. My son wants the keys to trade for Macaroni Jones. They're not trading Macaroni. How many times do I have to say this, Todd? It's almost like you don't listen, Todd. Todd! They're not trading Mac Jones. So the keys are, forget it. He's not going anywhere. In fact, he'll probably get extended by the 49ers. Shanahan has wanted Mac Jones from day one from the draft. It was only Lynch who convinced him to go for, what's his name, Trey Lance. He wanted Mac Jones. He finally has him. He needs him for the Super Bowl run. They think they can go on a Super Bowl run once they're all healthy. Brock Purdy gets hurt all the time. They need Mac Jones. They're not trading him. End of story. I don't know how many times I have to keep repeating myself. Well, boss girl, it's because he couldn't get into the games even late last year. They weren't even putting him in to run his routes. I mean, there's some good data out there about the fact that he was getting open when he was put in there, but a lot of the time they were putting, what's his name, Brandon Smith in before him. Brandon Smith, the practice squad player. So something happened with Arian Smith. I don't know what it is, but he wasn't getting enough reps on offense like he should have been toward the end of the year, even with bad quarterbacks. And that's the problem. And at one point, somebody asked him about all this, and Aaron Glenn talked about him on special teams. So that's not good either. I mean, it's nice if you're a special teamer, but if the head coach, the first thing he says about you is your special teams prowess, that tells you what you are. Now, why we think that, I don't know. But, the thing that could revive Arian Smith is Frank Reich goes to Glenn and says, no, I could use this guy. Here's how I'm going to use him. Okay. And then, Carr or Cousins or whoever comes in, and then in practice, they start using him and they go, oh my God. And I'm telling you, Rashid Shaheed was just running post routes. He's running straight, fake to the flag, run to the post. They're in single high safety. He runs past them, Rashid Shaheed, very fast. And Carr puts it right on his hands, touchdown, 70-yarder, 60-yarder. Over and over this was happening. It's not like Rashid is running some complex route. He's running a simple post route using his speed, but Carr is a quarterback who can throw it to him right on time. And why couldn't Arian Smith do that? I see no reason. So that's why people are down on him because he couldn't even get into the games really to get reps on offense. He was in on special teams, but for whatever reason, the offensive coaches last year didn't put him in. They were putting Brandon Smith over him. So, uh, and why that is, I don't know. You'd have to ask Tanner Engstrand. I don't know. It's the same thing with Malachi Corley, and the same thing with, well, not really Denzel, but same thing with, well, I mean, these wide receivers we had from Denzel Mims to Malachi Corley to Elijah Moore to Arian Smith. I don't know what goes on with these people in the fucking wide receiver room. Maybe somebody should check the wide receiver room for ghosts or evil spirits or something. You know, something goes on with these kids. They're promising guys, and so something happens, and poof, they stink. I don't know. Maybe it's just a lot of wide receivers flame out. I mean, look at Keon Coleman with the Bills, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why Elijah Moore can't hang on a roster. They're one of the best route runners you'll ever see in your life. I have no idea why. Malachi Corley, he can do some things. The Browns were using him to do some stuff, jet sweeps mostly, but and returning kicks. So this idea that he couldn't play special teams, no. The Browns found a way to use him on special teams, returning kicks, and doing an okay job with that. So why did we have to get rid of him? I don't know. What happened to Arian Smith? I don't know. So there's something with our wide receiver room. There's probably evil spirits in there. We got to get rid of them. Maybe that's why we need all these Christians. Maybe they need holy water. You know, they got to put holy water in the wide receiver room to clear out and cleanse it, so that these kids that we get that have potential, we could use them. It seems good to use these people since we draft them at all. Joe Grana is here. Yeah, we're not getting Linderbaum and all the might develop a competitive team. Yeah, we're not getting Linderbaum. Every every fan base wants Linderbaum, so he's not coming here. I think he's going back to the Ravens personally. But if he doesn't, he'll go to Harbaugh with the Giants or Harbaugh with the Chargers, maybe. Super, you never know. I hear the Cards are cutting their quarterback. It could be Kyler or Malik too. Yeah, if we get Kyler, I will jump off a building. So we're not getting Kyler. Sacheti, amen. Superfan, and what are we missing? Superfan wants to know. What do you mean, what are we missing? Right now, we're missing a quarterback. We got to get a quarterback. And it can't be Kyler. Kyler would be the worst. Do not get Kyler. People don't really understand or pay attention, I guess, but all of his teammates hate Kyler Murray. In case you haven't read that or know that. He's very introverted. They don't like him. He doesn't interact with them. He doesn't study the playbook. He plays video games all day. He doesn't study. He doesn't work hard. He just runs around. He's 5'10". There's zero need for Kyler Murray on this team. If Kyler Murray comes here, maybe I'll shut down the channel. I don't know. No, I won't do that. But it would be a very depressing time if it's Kyler Murray. We should not have any. We should not be in the Kyler Murray business under any circumstances. No, 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 no. There's no reason for it. He's not going to be successful, and nobody and his teammates hate him. He's a terrible leader. Nobody likes him. They're desperately trying to get rid of him. They can't. So, too bad for them. That's one problem that we don't need. let's be clear. Maybe he can go to the where did Kingsbury go? Kingsbury wound up where? The Rams? Maybe he can go to the Rams if he gets released as a backup. And Kingsbury can, talk to him about old times. But, yeah, no, he's not coming to the Jets. No, 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 no. Just like Carson Beck. No, no, no. Just like Garrett Nussmeier. No, 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 no. Joe Grana. YT run a 3-4, tons of those. Yeah, sure. Super. Go to the line above that message. I don't know. You're asking a lot of me, Super. I don't know what you're talking about. All right. So that'll do it for tonight. We've been hanging out for a while. So thank you for joining. I would encourage people to join the Inner Circle where you get exclusive items. Click the join button down below. If you're not subscribed, subscribe right now. That's free. Just hit the subscribe button down below. And with that